What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics. I got Jack in the
And
house.
Jack's like, what's up, shizzles?
We got episode 52, Comic Book Conservation Live Show. Ooh, how was your week, Shelby?
Man, it's been dog eat dog, and I'm wearing milk bone underwear.
Like on purpose, because you like that?
You've never tried that?
Captain
It has
Larry
been
was
very
with
busy,
us for
my
a
friend. You and I have talked a couple times this week. It's been very busy. Kind of halfway through this big project I'm working on for a client, and everybody's got an opinion. just like a certain hole, everybody's got one.
Just making sure this isn't Captain Larry messaging me. No, it's not. Captain Larry was with us for a moment, and we could hear him, but I guess he couldn't hear us, so he bugged out. I expect him back soon. I had a great week. Thanks for asking, my friend.
Oh, do you have a good week?
Busy as always. You know, it is spring migration, and I don't talk about it very much on here, but my good friends know I'm a bird watcher, and I've been trying to get out and do a little birding because this is the time when they're passing through. This is when you see them. This is when you save up your PTO.
Yeah, I thought
because in the winter you see the same species, in the summer you see the same for like 5 or 6 months straight, but during migration all kinds of crazy things can happen. Birds that aren't supposed to be here sometimes show up.
Well, we got a little bit of a cold snap.
That helps. You saw the big year. You know that helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and spring migration, when all the young men go to the beach to try to find the
yes.
Yeah, okay.
All the things. Let's start at the top. We'll say hi to folks first this time. And thank you to our sponsors for this week. Thank you for the sponsors we already have for next week while we just wait for Larry to rejoin us. My buddy Danner, Mike, what's up? He says, love the originals. Yeah, he's talking about X-Men 1. It's a big book. This show, if you're watching it live, you're watching it ad-free, thanks to AG, Salesboy Comics, and Collecting Chaos. Go check out their channels. Thank you so much, guys, for sponsoring the show. We appreciate it. Looks like Larry might be ready to come back in. You're live.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
We got you, baby.
Yay!
We got you.
All right.
We heard you before. You couldn't hear us. We thought you just had your hearing aid turned off.
No, I don't use the hearing aid, and that's why everybody's just going, do you have a listening problem? And it's true, I do. I don't listen much.
Why don't we do? I'm already saying hi to everybody, so we'll do our intros after we finish saying hi to everybody, Captain.
Okay.
Thanks for joining, Robbie Josephs. Thank you for the super chat, Jason at Archivist Adrift. Go check out his channel. Don Carter, thank you so much. He's also super chatted us. Appreciate you. Let's see. Rick Nestor's here. Shelby's here, obviously. Collecting Chaos really doesn't like ads. So if nobody else pitches in, he will. We had a comment about the price of conserved comics going up, and I said, maybe it's a flight to safety. You have to sell the S&P 500 when it's down 10% in 2 days.
I was wondering that.
You have to put your money in comic books, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation.
Hey, I was looking at Go Collect has basically like an S&P 500. They have an index for Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze. They have modern. They have copper. They have modern, and they also have just like monster keys or grails, maybe they call it. And guess which one of them is up over the last 12 months?
Which one?
Golden Age, 6%.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's always been a good place to hide your money.
and all the other ones down in the trailing 12 months.
Yep.
So
I want to give a couple of shout outs real quick. Y'all always remember to go see Coffee with Chaos. I don't know why we haven't been invited on the show yet, but anyway, and then his past couple of videos have been really interesting, showing some tools of the trade. So for those of y'all that are just beginning, go check that out. And then I have it on my list, but I haven't watched Archivist Adrift's new video. But I saw he just
got some.
So
He's got some big drops.
check that out.
The professor has some big drops too. I was just about to say hi to the professor Peter Alachi, Experiments in Conservation. Check out his channel if somehow you haven't already. Hopefully, Collecting Cast will show us those two Green Lantern 2 and 4 on his channel. Let's see. Vulu's here. Ben Stewart's here. Sorry if I missed you. I'm going a little bit back and forth a little bit. Oh yeah, it was cold. It was in the 30s today when I started birding, guys. It was cold.
That's too cold to go outside.
Professor, I use eBird and Merlin. They're both by Cornell University, Department of Ornithology. They work together, and yeah, that's what I do. Thanks for asking. All right. Well, how have you been, Captain?
Tired. I just got home like yesterday, and I mean, I went from what did I do? Okinawa. Let's see. I went from Taiwan to Okinawa, Okinawa to Incheon, Incheon to Minneapolis, Minneapolis to here. Then I went straight to bed. So you can see I got the eye tourniquets, going right now. I haven't shaved.
No.
So yeah, it's been busy. And it's just like I see everybody putting out all these their videos, and I have been so remiss in even putting anything out. I feel guilty.
My friend, you and I both. I think I'm just what ended up being a 1 month off is almost now grown to 4 months off. So I think I'm going to probably end up like doing a big 6 months and I'm 6 months on, 6 months off.
Well, I keep buying things, but I don't document them. I'm trying to get them out the door, and it's just like,
it takes a lot of extra time to do content creation.
No,
I could conserve a book a day if I wasn't doing all the content creation around it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it takes self-control not to buy shit. So,
Gorilla Monkey 3000 is here. Hello.
That's crazy talk, dude.
I keep buying stupid shit like this. It's just like,
That is, I know that's not an original.
Tell everybody where they can find you when you're home.
Well, actually, you can find me anytime. I'm Flying L Comics. You can find me on Instagram. It's the easiest way to find me and message me. Some people message me through YouTube and Facebook. I don't always get to those right away. So Instagram's usually the best place to find me.
Shelby, I know I asked you how your week was, but why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Normally I drop videos on here, but apparently that doesn't happen very often anymore. I was going to drop some of the videos from the con, and it turned out my microphone was acting up, so all the audio came out really, really bad.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was looking forward to those.
Yeah, I know. I might try to fix it here at some point, but no. Like I said, usually you can find me. You can find me over on
I think he's having internet issues.
I'm glad it's him and not me.
That was weird. And that way. Yeah,
awesome. That was Instagram and Facebook. And he mentioned our Facebook group, the Comic Book Conservation Community, which surpassed 500 members. Thank you, everybody.
that Shadow Comics was freaking fire. That
So much good work.
Steve dropped. Oh
so
my
much
God.
good work. We talked about it, but there's like, I think 15 people posting leaf casting results so far on our group now.
And so many new names that I just don't even know anymore, man. So
well, that's good. I mean, that means
it is. I'm so happy to see some new names.
Had an effect, which is what we wanted to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, Don Carter, today is my birthday, Don. So, I see a plastic man you can send me.
Happy birthday, Shelby. Everybody tell Shelby happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Shelby.
He's really old.
I am.
Yeah, but I'm still older.
I was going to say, sorry, Captain.
I am 56.
I'm the young person on the show today.
Well, I am turning. I'm turning 60 on May 1st. So.
Oh man. Well, we got to get some young folks involved in the hobby. So let's talk about X-Men. Young people love X-Men, right?
Oh my God.
Everybody loves X-Men.
Kind of, yeah. Well, everybody since Chris Claremont. X-Men got canceled first time around because nobody liked it.
Nobody liked it. Yeah.
Remember, X-Men got canceled around issue 3rd. I don't remember.
It was late 50s or early 60s.
Okay, and then they started doing reprints bi-monthly.
Mm-hmm.
So, this was not a title that was an instant hit. Unlike Fantastic Four, Avengers, Hulk, Thor, things like that. So to have it where it's at today is a bit astonishing.
Or even uncanny.
Yeah. Ooh, that was bad pun.
Yeah.
Bad pun.
Yeah. Bad pun.
Well, number one is, dare I say, a grail for many people.
It is not in my collection, unfortunately.
Nor mine. My brother has a copy.
I have the Amazing Adventures reprint.
I don't think that counts, Shelby. I'm sorry.
I actually have the first reprint in Marvel Superheroes. Was it in Marvel Superheroes?
Yeah, it's in Marvel Superheroes.
Yeah, I have that one. All right, so let's go down the chronology again. Let's zoom out, 10,000 foot view. November 1961, Fantastic Four #1, 2,000 copies in the CGC census. January of 62, Tales to Astonish 27, only 1,000 copies in the census. Incredible Hulk 1, May 62, 1,500 in the census. Amazing Fantasy 15, August 62, 2,600. Journey into Mystery 83, same month, but 2 weeks later from Amazing Fantasy 15, August 62. Just under 2,000 in the census. Tales of Suspense 39, First Iron Man, March 63. Really not, he's only around 6 months when he gets thrown in the Avengers. He's only had that golden costume. He only has that golden costume like 2 months. And then he goes on to the red and gold. A little over 2,000 in the census. Strange Tales 110. First team up of the Wizard and Paste Pot Pete. I'm not sure if anything else important happens in that one.
The first Paste Pot Pete?
No, because he went by a different name prior to Paste Pot Pete.
No, later he becomes the Trapster.
Oh no, that's right. No, that's right. I got it backwards. Yeah, I actually had that book, and I sold it. So
I do have that in my collection.
Yeah, I own.
I only have one of these four in my collection.
Oh.
Jack's going to sleep, Shelby.
I only have 3. September 63, Avengers, over 4,000, over 4,300 in the census. Same month, September 63, X-Men 1, almost 5,000 in the census. See how Marvel was growing at this time? It was blowing up. And this was when Jack was calling it the Marvel Age. Because it was.
Wasn't it like they were limited to like 8 different books?
Titles.
Yeah. 8 different titles.
Yep. That's why Tales of Suspense was a split book, and that's why Tales to Astonish was a split book, because they were trying to get all their superheroes out every month, and they could only do it in 8 titles. And then, of course, we mentioned recently April 64, Daredevil, 5,500 in the census. So we're going to talk about September 1963. Again, really when Marvel was blowing up at the height. Jack was starting to run out of bandwidth, so he helped Stan kick off some of these teams, but didn't stick with them very long. He settled into FF and Thor primarily after getting a lot of them kicked off.
Or would just do covers.
He did content or
interiors like Dick Ayers and
Yep. Or he would only do half the book, like in Tales of Suspense. He would do the Captain America side of the story, but not the other side. So X-Men 1, we mentioned just under 5,000 Universal. A lot of signature copies, a lot of restored copies, qualified, a few conserved copies. So when one does show up for auction, we like to check in on it. Median grade here, it's almost perfectly split between 3.5 and 4.0, but mathematically it's 4.0. So the median grade in one of these books is crummy, frankly.
They're hard to get a high quality with the white cover.
Well, but you're also seeing in recent years, and I would say 5 to 8 years, more lower grade copies getting graded, right? Used to, it wasn't worth the squeeze, so to speak, to do that. But now, you can go to a con, you can see a 0.5 or a 1.5. I just saw Daredevil number 1, 1.5 slabbed. And so a lot of people are getting these lower grade slabbed nowadays.
Right. Lots of happy birthdays for you, Shelby. Jim, who is our resident Grand Comics database master, says he's older than all of us. Wiser, for sure. This, I really don't know if Jason's serious. I feel like I'm actually old enough to have used a paste pot when I was like in kindergarten or something.
Well, I've used a pressure pot. I haven't used a paste pot.
So a paste pot is literally a little container of glue, and it has like a lid, and the lid has like a tongue in it that you use to apply glue to stuff.
You don't remember the tongue in the lid, and you would unscrew it, and the tongue.
Oh my goodness gracious. I think this is where the show, like this will be when they look back and they say, when did the Comic Book Conservator's live show jump the shark? It'll be when we were talking about paste pots.
Off the rails. Get back in your lane.
Thank you, Chaos.
How is Magneto's magnetism power repelling? Because he can do force fields with his magnetic power, even on non-ferrous items. Don't know why. Yeah. Must have been hard water. What else do I have to say about this? Obviously, it's the first appearance of the entirety of the X-Men and Magneto and all of their origins. So this is the original X-Men team. The Professor, Scott, Jean, Hank, Bobby. Am I missing anybody? Oh, yeah, Warren. And just a couple issues later, the Professor professes his love for Jean in a famous panel because they were trying to set up a love triangle between Scott, Jean, and the Professor.
That's just creepy.
Yeah, big time. I actually, you know, I've said it before. I think the X-Men is the title where Stan and Jack never found their footing, and I'm not surprised that it was canceled. Well, went into reprints. There's actually some really good material just before it goes to reprints, when they were putting some different creators on it and trying a lot of different stuff. And I think those are the best of the Silver Age issues, personally. Although you've got some huge keys in the first issues with this one, obviously, with all the first appearances. And you got, you know, first Scarlet Witch, first Quicksilver, first Juggernaut, all that stuff. So first K's, lots of stuff.
First Blob.
First Blob, first Eunice, first Banshee. Are we going to keep going? First Chameleon.
No, there's a lot of firsts in those first issues.
Yeah. Sales Boy, thank you so much. He says, happy birthday, Shelby, with the $5 super chat. Appreciate you. Oh, we got our sponsors lined up for next episode. So this book trades hands, you know, with over 5,000 issues, in Universal, in the census. It trades hands a lot. And here you have the sales data for the 2.5 from Go Collect. Really pretty interesting here. So high watermark, 13,560 in this grade, obviously during the pandemic. Remember, the pandemic was a bit of a perfect storm for the X-Men, because the pandemic was happening and that was driving up all kind of asset prices. But we also learned that the Sony sort of universe and at least on the X-Men side, and the Marvel universe were coming together. And so that brought a lot of hype to the X-Men in particular. So they saw even more hype than the rest of comic book assets. So that's not surprising that we peaked like that. But if you look at that line extended and you erase that big bump, look where we are now. We're more or less where we would have been, I think, right? In terms of this X-Men #1, in terms of fair market value. So in the trailing 12 months, we have an average of $5,079. We have a low of $4,400, a high of $5,450. And Go Collect currently calculates the fair market value with their algorithm at $5,250. So that's what I used. Keep in mind, if you have a 2.5, you are right at the bottom quartile. So this is basically the 25th percentile. And yeah, so 3/4 of the books out there are higher grade than your copy. That said, I mean, this presents pretty well. It's not a mess.
It could be cleaned, but
funny enough, it was cleaned.
Yeah, well,
that's why it's conserved. So this one was graded January of last year. It was cover cleaned, and there you see obviously the key, and then the grader's notes include tape to the centerfold, moderate stain full top of whole book, spine split top of spine, creasing to cover, light tears to cover, wear to cover. The spine split is what really did this one in, but then it's conserved. I have a theory about this.
Okay, lay it on me. I'll give you mine afterwards. Go ahead.
Let's look at the big pictures first. So here's the top half of the front cover. One of the things you'll notice is the cover is too small, left to right.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah,
how much of a margin?
Shrunk.
Yeah, I think what is at first I was wondering if it was the wear, the lightening of the inks along the spine, but then I started looking. I think it's the shrunken cover, especially that top corner. You can see definitely where they've reattached the cover, and with it being shrunk, it just isn't fitting quite right now,
And
because you
for
should
the
see more. You should see more of that cover wear being matched with the interior wear, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right,
well,
the cover
for
is shrunken away from it.
well, what it is for those at home, when you get these books wet, the grain runs vertically on them, so they'll shrink this way and they expand this way. And unless you correct it or have a way to dry it without it shrinking and contracting, this is what happens.
That's funny.
I have to
Ask me how I know.
Angel using a bazooka.
Couple comments about how the inkers could have done better over Kirby's pencils. I mean, these inks are pretty lame palette.
You
I
only
tend to agree
had
with that.
you only had like 2 inkers in the whole bullpen
Yeah.
back then.
Conserved, and there's tape on centerfold. I am very confident the person who submitted this was trying to avoid a conserved
I'm certain of that
label.
as well.
Yeah, this was an accidental conserved.
Yeah, they were hoping they could sneak something past.
I think this is almost supposed to be like they're in the danger room. These are like danger room type implements that the Beast and Warren are using, maybe? I don't know, but that's a good question, Jason.
You can see where the ink is lifted on the spine. That's also a definite sign of the over cleaning of the cover.
Well, and then that's what I said a minute ago, Larry, is I was
Yeah.
curious if that wear ink loss that you're talking about is due to cleaning or due to wear. But like I said, I think the most obvious sign of it being cleaned is the shrunken cover.
Let's take a look at the back.
The back, you can see it very much.
So there's actually a little bit of spine roll as well. And as you pointed out, Larry, it's actually not that clean, despite having a cover cleaned notation.
Maybe they just clean. I can't imagine they just would clean the front of the cover, not the back, unless there's just really embedded stains. But it doesn't look like it. Looks like surface dirt.
Well, I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
I think somebody did a bad job with a hop on this book.
It looks like it was hopped. Yeah.
And I'm not, as you know, I'm not against the hop method in general. I mean,
if you know what you're doing, hop works.
Our buddy,
if you don't, this is what happens.
Friend of the channel, Jim Walgert, we've had him on. Mm-hmm. He innovated the hop method. He had a team around him, including Joe Chopsewski and Chris and Captain Mike, Chris Trump, that is, who we had last week, and others. And, I think it's a valuable tool to have in your toolbox. That said, even in their book, they point out that you can wreck books with it, or you can get conserved or restored grades if you're not careful. This to me looks like it was probably double hopped, and that probably led to the spine split, and probably led to the cover shrinkage, and probably led to the conserved grade. The person doing this most likely didn't disassemble the book, therefore never removed the tape from the centerfold.
That's why when it got wet, it blew out that staple.
Yeah. That's my guess.
I think that's a fair guess, actually.
The world's greatest conservation detective.
Who knows? What do we have for guesses on this book? For a reminder, fair market on the Universal, $52.50. So, what do you guys think?
I'm going to come in at 1,800.
It presents really nicely. I think 1,800 is a good guess. Anyone else want to venture a guess? The professor's at 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, I was around 16.
16, honey. Salesboy comes right in at 3,000. He saw the title of the show.
Yeah.
Jason's at 1,501. He knows how to play the game.
That was clickbait.
Ben Stewart at 2,500. Commandant VHS, welcome to the show. Guesses at 1,200. My buddy Hugo Danner's at 1850. The professor's now going to revise his guess to 1502. Just kidding. Dagny, haven't seen you in a while. Glad to have you here. Just under 2,000. Any other guesses? Jim's in at 1950.
$1.
Wow. Rough crowd, Ben. You really think he does not have a lot of faith. He does think I'm making clickbait titles. All right. You guys ready? This was eBay, fixed price. It ended this week. Somebody clicked the buy it now. For
That's
boom,
surprising.
35
surprising.
honey.
Somebody must just got their income tax check in.
I think they probably overpaid on that one.
They
honestly.
overpaid.
I mean, yeah, for 3,500, you can. I still think you can find a decent, Universal.
Can you?
No, I think. Well,
A one?
We'll see where
You know
our
what a one
economy
is going to look like?
We'll see where our economy is headed.
I mean, this presents really well.
It does. It's just, I mean, I guess as conservators, we see the flaws in what they did, and I guess that bugs me a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, like I wouldn't want to. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad.
Sales boy. I'm not sure. I think Dagny, technically you were after I revealed it. I think there's a couple comments before your number there. Yeah. Well, guess what? When we launched the show, we were showing a fair number of books that were selling at 2/3 the universal price.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was saying that's my rule of thumb, half to 2/3. And then we showed a whole bunch of books that were
way
hideously low, like a quarter of universal. And then we showed some 30 and 40% and half of universal. But the last 2 weeks, we've showed books that have been right in this range of 2/3 universal. So maybe, we had some, I mean, look, all these markets are thinly traded because there's just not that many conserved books around. And I do tend to pick ones from the golden age, which means they're even harder to estimate fair market value on. This one here does trade enough that I think the fair market value is fairly well established. I think, the last two Silver Age books that I've featured have been right at this 2/3 point. So maybe that's reasonable. Maybe it's not overpaying. Thoughts?
Jason's tugging my chain. Jason's being mean to me.
Oh, yeah. Jason, good job. Look at my face. Good job, Jason. No, I think I'm not to pick on whoever did this work.
No, and that's why I said I don't say anything bad. I
don't think the person doing this work.
Some more care could have been taken. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think the person doing this work was intending to get a conserved grade. I don't think the person doing this work read this book right here, had the benefit of sort of being able to have a community around to give them some feedback on this. But
yeah, I think this was a attempt to trying to make something really, present much better, and it just kind of got overdone.
Well, and
it got overcooked, is what it did. They cooked the cover.
I think so. And like I said, my guess is they probably split the spine or accelerated or made the spine split worse. This is one that should.
That probably happened with the humidification of the hop, if that was it.
Yeah, I think
we know Silver Age books, man. You can't do some of these things, dude.
Yeah.
Well, the hop method works, like I said, for people that are skilled enough to practice it, but you can ruin it, and this is what happens. This is how the result is.
And I've split spines, like leaving stuff in the humidity chamber too long.
Guilty. We all have.
Forget about it, or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
Anyway.
Speaking of hop, we do discuss it in our book. We talk about the modifications we like to do. We do recommend you buy the stain removal and whitening book. You learn everything from that. And it's a great jumping off point. It's the most concise summary. And but we do recommend some modifications of that method. And there's some books where we recommend other things.
Yeah.
And that is our segue.
Getting into the hobby, man. The second edition is really great of Captain Mike's book, and you should go out and get, pick it up. There's a lot of new material. It's bigger. I like it because it's bigger, because I'm old and I can see things better. But yeah, if you're just starting out and you want, that's how I know Paul and I have talked and stuff. That's how we started out was with, Captain Mike's books, and they're an excellent resource.
Oh yeah. I just had a couple comments. We'll move to our next segment. Obviously, water is safer than H2O2 as long as it's not distilled water. Then it might even be break even. Not gonna lie.
And we're not saying the defects are due to hydrogen peroxide. It's due to the over moisturing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if that would have been. Who knows? That may not even been hopped. I'm just speculating.
But it definitely was an over.
No, it wasn't over whitened. That wouldn't be.
No, it wasn't over whitened. But yeah.
As Larry said, paper has a grain, right? And just like anything made out of wood will swell and shrink with humidity with the grain, right? It doesn't shrink dimensionally this way. It only goes this way, right? So that's what's happening. The paper is laid down, has its own grain. Silver Age grain is this way, and that's why it shrinks this way. Golden Age grain actually is this way. The paper was loaded in the machine differently with the print, and so it shrinks this way, up and down. So anyway, good segue to our second topic for the day. We're going to talk a little bit about, I wanted to say collecting chaos. We've all done this. I've done it.
Oh, yeah.
It happens. Be careful. Be careful out there.
I ripped a Hulk 181.
Wow.
But I still got an 8.0 on it.
All right. We're doing this. I ripped an Iron Man 55.
I've ripped more things than I can count.
All right. You starting us off? I think you said you want to start us off with some comments.
No, I will wrap us up. Why don't you start us off on this, and then I will do a segue between this and our next deck with the stuff we talked about. Shelby, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think hopefully I got everybody straightened out this past week that my two people in Canada got their books shipped out. I apologize. I was a little bit late. Work had just been tearing me up. And USPS did lose one book, but I sent out the replacement this past week. So hopefully that takes care of this. If you never got a copy through the Kickstarter, please go to Amazon. It's available in hardcover and softcover. I think there still might be a sale on the soft covers. I'm not sure. But definitely go out and get those. And such. So with that, though, go ahead to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
We'll just go ahead and say thank you. This book's been a labor of love. Thank you, everybody, who supported us along the way. We're grateful to each and every one of you and can't wait to bring you more in the coming year. And, of course, the response has been great. One of the things that has really touched me is when Paul and I were talking about this book early on, and I was telling him my vision for this book. I wanted it to be a kind of a journey, right? And I think a lot of people has really seen that with the way the graphics were done, the stories, the art, the way things are laid out, that this is kind of more than the sum of its parts in a way of it just really being just, you know, entertainment along with a resource. So if you like it, please go leave that review on Amazon. We really appreciate it. I agree. The hardcover is nice. We still have a few. I'd sent out another one this week, but we do still have a few of the deluxe editions, which has this nice matte finish. It has thicker. It also comes signed
and is limited. The deluxe edition is limited to only 30.
Yeah.
So there's just a few of those left.
Well,
those are the only ones, by the way, that we have that you contact us directly for. The normal soft cover, normal hardcover, just you order directly from Amazon. We don't have any personally stocked.
So paper is a little bit thicker, and there's actually a little bit extra material in here. Nothing in terms of like conservation, but just some extra pictures and stuff. So yeah, I think we have 4 or 5 of these left. So please contact us at libertyhill@gmail.com.
All right. And leave those reviews on Amazon, please. We appreciate it.
All right. So our next book is entitled A Practical Manual for Beginning Conservators. I actually had a couple of people reach out to me. Is that because, are you on page 68?
We have a couple comments. Shelby, why don't you keep rolling? We'll sort of cover all these comments at once.
So I had actually a couple of people. It's funny. A couple of people reached out to me. Kevin, the comic doctor, reached out and said, "Man, I love the book. Really great. We're keeping it in the workshop for everybody to use as a reference." He's like, "But you should really make more of a step-by-step guide." And I was like, "Well, funny you say that, because that was the plan for the next book." And so the next book is more of a step-by-step guide, or a cookbook, as I kind of envisioned it. Of course, this manual will walk you through the essentials of methods. Excuse me. Oh, the King Kong. King Kong is freaking amazing work on it. And the book is written. We are done with it. It's around the beginning of April, of course. And so the book is written and undergoing edits.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! And for y'all tonight, we're going to give a preview. So here's the cover.
Oh, nice cover.
Thank you. A how-to guide for combat conservation, a practical manual for beginning conservators. And had X-Men 1 there. Go to the other one first, and we'll come back to this one.
Okay. So let's grab a couple of comments, and then I want to talk a little bit about the first book and the second book. So
please.
Couple questions about shrinkage. Just for those of you that don't know about shrinkage, any women that are watching that don't know about shrinkage,
I knew you were going to go there.
You can minimize it a little bit.
It happens when you get in the pool or get your comics wet.
So we talk about it in the book. It's talked about actually in the paper conservation literature. The best way to minimize it, I'm not sure that you can ever say you can 100% prevent it, because I have a pretty good track record, and I know Captain Larry does too, but we're hobbyists, and we do this, like if you said, oh, clean 1,000 books, and I would never tell anybody, oh, I can do all of them without any shrinkage of the cover. Constrained drying essentially dries the cover as quickly as possible while constraining it dimensionally. That's sort of a fancy way of saying drying it under pressure, under weights, but constrained drying is actually the term used in the literature. It's used in a number of situations where you wet pages for a number of different reasons: deacidification, washing, even leaf casting, because when you cast new leaf onto existing paper, it almost never has the same dimensional stability as the existing paper. It's going to want to contract more or less with humidity. And so constrained drying is a major part of paper conservation. So we go through detailed methods of how to do that. I've done it in my videos, but also, again, we do it in the book. But It is quite effective. I won't say it's 100% effective. This is one of the reasons why it's difficult to practice constrained drying on a book that's still assembled. This is one of the reasons why I tend to prefer just disassembling books and wet cleaning covers if they need it, rather than HOP these days. Not that, again, HOP isn't a useful tool in your toolbox, and I think is super clever, and we're a fan of it. There's another question here about HOP, and it was wrinkling. Here we go. Is this it? Billy, welcome to the show. Billy Pilgrim, I have a hard time with ripples. Okay. Ripples mean that you have either too much water, too much heat, or not enough paper buffering, or you have an SRP layer. What's effectively happening is hot water is moving through the book, and it's expanding the paper and not being allowed to escape from the book.
Yeah, there's no path for escape.
So either use less water, use less heat because the heat will drive the water faster. So that's why in the HOP book, the heat they recommend is like 135 Fahrenheit as opposed to like 155 to 165 Fahrenheit would be kind of like a normal press temperature. Also, you can't use SRP like you used to use. You must use paper to buffer to allow a path for the water to escape. So that's what's going on with wrinkling. Try either less water, lower temperature, or get rid of SRP if you're using it, or buffer with more paper so that your humidity can escape. And I thought,
so let me say this is I was plagued with shrinking covers for a while, especially in the Silver Age, and I was so aggravated. I reached out to Paul, and that's when he was talking about constrained drying, and I didn't have a piece of marble left over from a kitchen renovation, so I'd gotten with Rick Morgan. And he had actually, if you look back at one of his videos, he actually calculated the amount of pressure you kind of need in order to do constrained drying and reduce shrinkage. And so I ended up just going and buying a 20-pound weight, and I put it between two pieces of Rick Morgan's drying acrylic, and with a blotting material, which are paper towels, and I have not had any problems with it whatsoever ever since then. So it does work.
One thing.
Now, can a copy press do the same thing? I've never done it with a copy press, but I would think so. And I know Jerry uses the copy press to prevent that from happening.
What I wanted to say about for leaf casting, you are going to, for the hydrogen bonding, you are going to need more pressure than the 20 pounds. That's when we come into the copy press. Yeah, that's essential to just crush the shit out of the paper so it bonds to the old paper.
Yep. Mr. Collector 123. Welcome. He's joining us from one of y'all's channels, actually.
And I'll have to say, Mr. Collector's from my channel.
How much paper, Billy?
No SRP, 135 degrees.
Yeah. How much paper, though? Like how many layers of paper above and below do you have? That may be the issue. He says, no problem with DC's only marbles.
Wasn't his original question about HOP?
Ripples? Yeah, ripples
from HOP, not ripples from.
Yeah. So I'm asking about the rest of the buffer.
Yeah, is there paper in there to absorb?
I'll say I get the same problem. That's one of the reasons why I do full disassembly, because I've never been able to get the paper to lay flat for me, and I always ended up getting wrinkles or worse, things that look like printer creases.
Yeah,
you can't take out. So that is one of the big reasons why I do full disassembly. It's just easier to me.
Billy, definitely, I think you need more paper than this. I would do like 2 magazine backer boards, 3 pieces of copy paper, or 2 pieces of cardstock and 2 backer boards, something like that.
There's a but with that though.
Give it a try.
If you make it too thick, then you're looking at possibly blowing it out. So when you use that much paper, make sure it's a lightweight paper, like a 20-pound bond, nothing heavy.
Oh, I don't mean in the book. I mean actually on top.
Oh, I was talking about inside the book.
You can buffer a little bit extra in the book too, but not too much.
Yeah, because you'll blow that spine out.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. All right. So before we go to the next segment, we're going to give you a preview of the next book. I want to talk about the first book a little bit and segue it. So I want to talk about it in sort of, again, 10,000 foot view. So what was the book about? What does it do? What doesn't it do? Why is there another book coming? And more importantly, it's already creating, because people are starting to digest the book, and it's already, I think, creating a little bit of misunderstanding in our community. So I just want to nip it in the bud right now. So what Shelby and I did was we digested the paper conservation literature. We chewed it up. We applied it to comic books, and then we spit it out for you so that you don't have to read it all. What does that mean? What that means is a lot of the paper conservation literature was not directly applicable to comic books. A lot of it was on the wrong kinds of paper and other things. And so we found the parts that were most applicable, and we did the best we could. Now, the literature also is finite. So if somebody says to me, can I use 10% hydrogen peroxide? Well, nobody put that in the literature. Nobody did a controlled scientific study, right? The highest levels I think we saw were like 3%, maybe even 1.5%. So
1.5.
So what we can say is we looked at the literature, 1.5% hydrogen peroxide aqueous bath is safe for limited periods of time, doesn't destroy paper. So I want to talk about something that is important here. When we say 1.5% is safe for paper for this amount of time, full submersion aqueous bath, that's because there's good science to support that statement. We are not saying 3% destroys paper. We're saying 1.5% is demonstrated safe. So please don't use the book and go at somebody and say, well, you can't use over 1.5%, it's not safe. The data don't say that 3% isn't safe. Conversely, if you're using 3%, you don't have proof that that's safe unless you have your own data to present to me, because the data are not in the literature proving that that's safe. So that's how science works. That's how data works. I feel like that's getting lost a little bit in some of the conversation around the book in some of the corners of the internet. And so I just wanted to bring it up. So what does the book do? The book shows you everything that we could find in the literature and summarizes it in a way. Shelby made sure it was fun and accessible for everybody. I made sure it was scientifically 100% airtight. Not that Shelby doesn't also do that. And what it tells you is what data are available, what we definitely know for sure from the literature. There's a lot that we don't know. There's a lot of holes. And because we wanted it to be comprehensive and include everything that we knew that was relevant from the literature, it's like 265 pages. That didn't leave a lot of room for us to do summaries of, okay, here's just best practice for people that want the sort of cliff notes, right? So we were already basically had the whole thing written and we were busy editing it. And again, thank you to everybody who contributed, whether you contributed pictures, stories, projects, whether you contributed by editing, giving us feedback, we appreciate it. And we realized we don't have room to have a section in every chapter saying, here's what you really need to know. For 90% of stuff, just do this. We wanted it to be for every corner case and we wanted it to be comprehensive so that the people who want to learn all of the first principles can get all of them from this book here, and then they can interpret them themselves. But for those of you who don't want to do that, who want somebody else to just give you a recipe book with maybe a little bit of background and some examples, there's less of that in this book. So that's why we wanted to do another book. Hopefully that's clear to everybody. And if you have any questions about it, throw them in.
Well, it's just more in depth, I think, the new book.
Well, yes and no, Larry.
Yes
I
and
mean,
no, yeah.
well, you're more detailed. It's more detailed. But
That's
there's
what I mean.
Less breadth, a lot less breadth.
Okay.
Yeah, but more detailed on very specific. The techniques that you're going to use 9 times out of 10 are described in a cookbook-like way, step by step, with more detail. But the techniques you might need 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 times, we don't really cover here because, again, we wouldn't have room for them, right? Our first book was already, it was bigger than Shelby wanted it to be, and he knows better than I do in these.
How big is this book?
Right now it's 160 pages, I think.
Okay, that's a good size. It's going to be the same format as the other one.
Similar. So one thing, so Jason, I'm just picking on you. And that means that you are volunteering to be an editor for the next book. So you can find those typos. But yeah, this is just breaking down the simple techniques. And I say simple, but this is the basic techniques, I should probably say, of what you need for conservation. So it's dry cleaning, humidification, pressing, wet cleaning, stain removal, tear seals, reinforcement, reassembly, reformation. So it does not include things like removing glue, removing tape, so restoration removal. We are going to do a more thorough book on that too. It also doesn't include leaf casting. We're doing another book on that one too. That's going to be a lot more thorough. So these are just the basics in a more accessible way to approach this. One thing too is we had several people in the conservation community reach out to us and say, you really should have talked more about the conservator mindset. Kenny Sanderson was huge about this whole mindset that you have and that you bring to the hobby of conservation. So we put that chapter in there. Ethics we wanted to keep because that comes straight from the literature. And we also have a very large glossary of terms in this one. Good, Paul. We'll just show.
Yeah. What? You know what? Just real quick, let's address a couple comments.
Yeah,
here.
I was going to say we got a lot of questions here.
Larry, here's a request for you to put together some content soon.
Yeah. Well, actually, Paul, if you have, if you want to take that picture, I texted you earlier today. You can show my homemade copy press.
I wonder if I can do that.
I don't know. It should be right there in the text messages.
Why didn't I get a picture of it?
You weren't in the text chain. It was something I sent to Paul.
Let's see.
Now, I'm not sure how equal it is. I feel like it's not going to do as much pressure as an antique press or bookbinding press is what sometimes they're called. You can buy modern equivalents, which has a big handle, and that's what Peter and I have.
Well, what I did is, and Paul's trying to pull the picture up, is I was having trouble sourcing a copy press. I found a couple of them, $250, $300, $400, but all of them were like several hundred miles away. And then you start adding cost of gas and everything. It was cost prohibitive. So I like to invent things. So I modified a 12-ton press, and it was one I picked up off of Amazon.
You're not freaking pressing metal, you're pressing a comic book.
You gotta smash the crap out of it there,
Oh
boss.
God, man.
But there's a but in there, Shelby.
Oh,
Is
oh,
the sandwich that I'm using is 2 half-inch pieces of high density smooth plastic. After I've done the leaf cast, I put it inside blotting paper, and then continue to crush it down, and basically that removes all the water. And we were talking about controlling the shrinkage of the wet piece, and this does it. It'll keep it from shrinking. I've got a Planet Comics cover in there right now that I just did a full submersion leaf cast, and this time I did actually document some stuff. So I'll share that in a video. But I so far on this this homemade press that I'm using with the 12th. There it is. So that was from Amazon. It was about $180, and they brought it and dropped it off on my front porch. And then the pieces of high density plastic I got from US Plastic for about $20 a piece. And inside that sandwich is the blotting paper that's exact same size. And yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So you got plenty of throat here. So probably you want to move up to something stiffer than the plastic ultimately, like some thick cutting boards or something, some wood.
Well, I have wood to go underneath, but the plastic so far has worked pretty well. So I can make a thicker sandwich. This is actually experiment number 1. That this photo is from this morning in my garage.
Yep.
So
Jason, I also think 250, if it's a nice one, is probably pretty cheap.
I think, yeah, I would say 250 is a good deal as long as it doesn't have any cracks in it.
Yeah, or rusted to all hell and back and can't be twisted anymore. But yeah, they usually, the good ones or the ones in working order usually go for around 350, 400. What I found.
That's a great question for you, Dr. Paul. You're the
expert. So most glues can't be dissolved with solvents that won't take inks off your cover. Most glues are scraped or cut away, but we do have a chapter in the book about glues and which ones can be dissolved. I have a series of videos around America's Best Comics number 12, in which I showed a recipe for dissolving PVC glue and
PVA.
PVA, thank you. I knew it was wrong when I said it. And that's basically Elmer's glue or white glue, school glue. And you get a little bit of ink loss depending on where it is, and you may be able to do it. You may be able to dissolve it. So give that a try. Give it a look anyway, and then make a decision about
it. It does work. I've used it myself. That recipe is perfect.
Yeah. Steve G. Let's see.
I know, Gerald, and I saw your messages just the other day. I'm going to get everything straight. I promise. I know I keep saying that, but I promise you.
Steve G says, I spent weeks and weeks reading studies, newspaper preservation, blah, blah, blah. But this book cuts to the chase. Excellent, providing the details. Thank you.
And there's not a lot of even that. Like newspaper preservation is more difficult than comic book preservation, I think.
Collecting Cast says a couple of 2x12s and some wood clamps.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think for leaf casting. For leaf casting, you really need literally
a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, half-inch glass is pretty heavy. And I know that Jerry found his on the side of the road where someone threw it out from their broken bookcase. But half-inch glass of about a couple of feet is pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use a half-inch. It's 18 by 18 by 1/2 glass, and I got off Amazon. I got 2 of them. That's my cold press.
Shelby is a machine. This guy has over 30 peer-reviewed publications before he even started working in this field.
I'm used to writing, and
And he's a good writer too. He's not just pumping out garbage.
Yeah.
Gerald,
Wouldn't believe it the way I talk, but
I like
All right.
what Jason's drying wraps through crushing pressure would be wicked.
So we've been on over an hour, Shelby. Let's just give them a quick preview.
Do a quick
We'll go
preview.
kind of
and I'm
rapid
gonna
fire.
definitely ask some help from the community. So Mindset of the Conservator, all the chapters are kind of set up the same way, where at the beginning of each chapter you actually have the goals set out for you. That was something that I'd kind of integrated in the text, and then I didn't do it for everything, and I felt like that was something that was missing from the current book that I really wanted to outline in this new book. So the beginning of every chapter has the goals. There are some missing spots for pictures, and like I said, I'll be doing a request here in a little bit. You go ahead, a couple of things forward. So one thing too is, if you notice on these pictures, QR code. A lot of people requested, why don't you, when you're showing some of these things and you have videos, because I did pull a lot of images from our own videos, is put a QR code. So where available, there's a QR code with each picture where you can go now to the video instantly and actually see that book in whatever process that we're talking about in this reference. So,
right. And we'll create some new content for the book as well that'll be coded in this way.
Yeah, that's
some of the real basics, things that we get asked a lot.
Exactly. You can just kind of click ahead a little bit, and again, just QR code. You can just click ahead. Go ahead and go ahead. All right. So now dry cleaning, again, you have those goals at the beginning of each chapter, and all this is brand new stuff, right? It's not I recycled stuff from the current book and stuck in here. This is all brand new stuff, me taking maybe a different viewpoint of the topic as I was writing it. And it's a lot of things you should look out for. I didn't get into that because the first book was more of a reference manual way I looked at it. In this book, I'm really telling you the things to look out for when you're doing something. So, for example, with dry cleaning, these are the things you want to look out for when you go into this. And there's Paul's beautiful Wonder Woman that he did.
Back from CGC, by the way.
It is. And you just keep, and I got into more of the detail of all the different cleaning methods, but go to the next one. So, not this one, but this is a good one though. This was talking about kind of a cookbook. So every procedure is now broken down with a set of tools on the left and the broken out procedures on the right. So they're easy to follow. Anything specific you want to know, like for this one, cleaning with a cotton round, cleaning with a kneaded eraser, you have those, what tools you need and what the procedures are. You can go to the next one, and there's an example of using a white eraser, showing some great before and afters. Well, I did grow up in some of those eras of the Lifetime magazines. I remember those. You can go ahead. I mean, that's not much I'm saying. And hopefully you like some of the new art. So I am trying to do these full page pieces of art where possible.
I think that looks great.
Yeah.
Some inset stuff, again, the QR codes. So it is a fresh, it is fresh visually is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And a lot of these even are placeholders. So some of this art that you see that was in the first book, Shelby put together a lot of the text and put placeholders. And so some of this will be with new as well.
Yeah, I just tested out your QR code. Worked great.
Oh, great. Yeah, so just going through and Yeah, go ahead to the next one. And then at the end of each chapter, we put in common mistakes to avoid. That was something that so many people asked for that we didn't include in the current book. What are some of the common mistakes? What are some things I should look out for? And trust me, we've talked about that tonight, right? Is we've all made plenty of mistakes because we've been doing this now for a couple of years. And so we want to let you know what some of those areas you should look out for to keep you from making those same mistakes.
Forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah. The humidification is actually built out a little bit more than it is in the current book. We had a lot of discussion with like Kenny and Susan. They kind of take a different technique when it comes to humidification in some areas and pressing. And so those parts are included in here in a lot more detail than we had in the first book, because we actually didn't start talking to them in an active manner till we was almost finished with the book. So we were able to take some of that and add it to this book. Go ahead, Paul. And you just kind of click ahead and stuff a little bit. So again, still some placeholders around. But here is, we go into a lot more detail in the different types of humidification. I think in the first book, we really just talked mainly about humidity chamber. But there's a lot of different ways in which you can humidify, right? You can use cotton rounds. You can just lay it on top, put a towel over it. Blotter paper. This is an interesting one. Susan Ciccone actually takes real blotter paper and mists with a spray bottle, lets it fall on top of the blotter paper, and then lays that on top of the book and puts a light weight on top of it.
Interesting.
Uses that to humidify the book.
So
That's actually very traditional. I've seen some conservation videos where they actually do that process with very weak paper. And she swears by it.
Does she use a humidity chamber or just
no,
open?
Never.
Just that.
Never.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Paul. So the wet stack, we include handheld steamer. I don't think we talked about that in the first book. If we did, very lightly.
We do, but brief.
I use the handheld steamer quite often with my books. Go ahead, Paul. And then, of course, the humidity chamber.
That's what I use. I use a humidity chamber.
The classic. But there are different ways in which we discuss using the humidity chamber. We really go into more details about using a moistened towel, moistened sponge. Those cups you see that are holding up my platform, Rick Morgan actually turns them upside down and pours a little bit of water in each cup to get an even distribution of humidification across.
I have a similar setup. I have open bottom tubes that I use.
Yeah, I use the same setup as Paul. I have 4-inch PVC or ABS plastic as a platform.
What I use,
yeah. There's also micro. Help me with the word. Is it like micro, not micro mister, but like a micro humidifier or something that you guys.
They're the sonicating ones that aren't actually creating steam. They're actually creating micro bubbles that can actually carry. So different from a steamer in that steamer literally heats the water so it enters vapor phase. Sonic actually vibrates the water so that tiny micro bubbles lift off the surface. So it's more like fog versus steam.
Yes.
One of the nice things about that is that can carry any ions that are in the water with it. So for example, if you boil water, which would be akin to steaming it, and it's salt water, the water that's coming off is pure water vapor. It has no salt in it. Salt can't enter that phase in that way. If you sonically make fog, though, the salt goes with the little bubble, the little micro bubble of water. And so, for example, if you wanted to deacidify a book, you would want to use one of those sonic fog generators as opposed to a, it might be ultrasonic. But,
ultrasonic, thank you. That's
at any rate,
what it is. Yes, thank you.
One of the ones that creates it by vibration rather than through a heating type element.
And if you only have salt water to drink, if you heat it and capture the steam in a distillery, then you'll have fresh water.
Well, then you'll have distilled water.
Water too. All right. And then common mistakes and such. And I think the next thing we have is just showing the glossary a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So the glossary.
To jump over to that, the glossary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The glossary, here's a question for you. Glossary going to cover both books?
There shouldn't be anything in this one that wasn't, or that there shouldn't, I don't want to say that. We're using the same terminology from the first book, but expanding it. So, yes, it should be included. So, same as what we did before, we're always looking for images. Mistakes is a big one. We have a lot of requests about just showing some of the mistakes, some of the things that we should avoid. That's why at the end of each chapter, I put that, common risks or things to avoid or being careful of. But we could always use some more images. If you have any step-by-step things, with stain removal or anything, not necessarily leaf casting. If you send us leaf casting stuff, that's going to be, we'll save it for another book.
Right. Or restoration removal.
Or restoration removal. But yeah, if you have some good images of you laying some Japanese paper and all that, or the next time you rip a cover.
Don't do it on purpose, please.
Yeah. And then certain defects. There's one thing that, and I'll make this a quick conversation because we're about an hour and 15 minutes, is I'm friends with Captain Mike, and Captain Mike is working on a second edition of the stain removal. And, one of the things with his books is he doesn't do disassembly, period. Where we do disassembly. And I'm not saying that we promote disassembly. We give you in the book methods to do cleaning, whether you disassemble or not disassemble.
Right.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
However, there are certain stains that are going to do better with disassembly. And I'll give you an example. If you have a dirty t-shirt and it has mud and dirt and all that stuff on it, and you lay it out and you put a wet rag on top of it, how well do you think it's going to clean it? Not very well. But that's essentially what you're doing with hop, is you're taking a dirty cover and you're laying a wet piece of paper on top of it and pressing it and thinking that, somehow by magic that the dirt is going to get lifted off. Now, what happens is you have hydrogen peroxide usually, and hydrogen peroxide is a bleach, not a dirt removal. So the best way to clean your shirt is you put it in the washing machine. The dirt and soiling becomes solubilized, and it gets lifted from the shirt, just like you do with a full immersion bath. So there are, now am I saying that you shouldn't do hop? Of course I'm not saying that. There are certain stains or certain things like whitening that it's great for. So is blue light.
What Shelby is saying is put your Hulk 181 in the washing machine.
Did you see Rick Morgan stick the giant size X-Men #1 in the bathtub? Oh my God, I freaked out. All right, apparently came out good. Apparently came out fine. But all I'm saying is that we want to bring some, and I don't want to say common sense, but some good. We want to bring things to the attention more. And so, for example, if you're dealing with a, very brown tanned book, yeah, guess what's going to be your best thing is calcium hydroxide. And now, if you don't have any stainings, you just want to reduce the tanning. Sure. You see Salesboy doing it. He just wipes a cotton thing around it and can remove some of the tanning, but if you want, a deeper effect that goes all the way through the fibers and you're sure that leaves a really healthy alkaline reserve, then full immersion is going to be your better way.
Or minimally using a calcium hydroxide as part of your hop or as part of your mist, bled O, bled M, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. The Ghostwriter that Larry did, that was a stain that went all the way through the book. Placing.
Yeah. And it was right on the spine too. In a way that
paper on each side of that is not going to. Yeah. It will bleach the stain. It's not going to remove it. But he took it completely off the, took the cover off and full immersion, aqueous bath, and was able to get the results that, you can get from that process.
That's a good example of constrained drying too, giving you a universal label.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one got a universal label on that one.
Yeah.
And we did beat the CGC thing to death, so there's no CGC stuff in this one. So, we'll probably be working with Matt. Oh, thinking about that, I do need to get some orders in so if anybody's wanting that
Matt's book.
Great. Yeah, Matt's book. I will be doing an order soon. I know I put a survey up on the Facebook, and I'll be ordering a few extras and stuff. So
all right.
Anyway, yes, please reach out to Liberty Hill Press at gmail.com and send me your images. Make sure they're nice, high resolution, and etc.
Are you doing show offs, Larry, before we say goodbye?
Well, we were talking. Well, this kind of matches the subject. I did take a cover off of a
First Eunice, the Untouchable.
Well, you did say first Eunice. So what I wanted to point out though is up here.
Yeah.
The colorist decided to do some coloring in here. I did clean it. I did have some color loss, and we were talking about that earlier. This is something I did literally right before the show. There's the stamp on the front.
It's a bonnet. It's a bonnet book.
Yeah. But the interior was tan, and now it's clean. Now I will preface: I paid $25 for the book. So it's not anything major, but it's something. I'll put it back together. Once I deacidify the rest of it, it'll be it'll be a conserved book again.
Yeah,
so.
And it has a bonnet stamp. The bonnet stamps are talked about in our current book.
What is a bonnet stamp? Let's explain that, Shelby.
Bonnet stamp, that is the oldest used bookstore in the entire United States.
No kidding.
It began back in the 1940s, I believe. Or
Oldest
30s, maybe. But the person that owned the store first, Bonnet, he actually wrote some comics and things back in the day in the golden age, and it's been a family-owned business in Ohio, and is still open today. And when you find older comic books like that with the bonnet stamp,
well, that's cool.
Remarkable.
He was buying comics by the pound and then reselling them and stamping them all like that.
Yeah, I bought 4 books for $100, and this is just, this is the one I was after. And it came with some other, I got like a pristine, 12-cent Daredevil. It's probably a 9.2 or a 9.4 even.
Oh, wow. Fun.
All of this stuff. Yeah, I did it. It was great. It was something that was on eBay, and nobody else really bid on it, so I got it.
Nice. We can... It's not really conservation related necessarily, unless you consider it all raw material, but we could start doing pickups. I think that would be fun on the show. Maybe just do a quick round of pickups as
I
a.
think that'd be a good idea.
I tell you what, viewers, if you think
Yeah,
that would be a
viewers.
good segment for us, drop us a comment either here in the live chat or comment on the video. Let us know that you think that would be fun and you'd like to see pickups from us, and we'll consider it for future episodes.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up. Let's thank again sponsors of this show. They include AG, Salesboy Comics, and Collecting Chaos. Next show is going to be sponsored by Archivist Adrift, Don Carter, and Salesboy Comics again, who says, "Happy birthday, Shelby." Happy birthday from all of us, Shelby. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Shelby.
I really appreciate all of you. Appreciate you co-hosts, everybody here in the chat, all of you watching later, everybody in the Facebook group. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And I'll say until next time, take care of one another. Shelby.
See you later, everybody. Shelby, see you.
Peace, love, and comics. Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye now.